All right, Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto the Most High, His only begotten Son. Call Halayim La Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakak Wadash. All right, the Barnes unto the apostles and elders, a great millstone, root teach well, while Barakathum to the hopeful elect. All right, today through the Spirit, I like to go into a video entitled Fellowship and Debating with Unbelievers, right? Because you see, I have a lot of pictures of these examples of these different various Hebrew Israelite groups. You know, like you have the ex-Sakari, which they not really, they kind of broken up. You have IUIC, you have ISUBK. You know, they all are going on platforms with unbelievers and hanging out with them and being elbow to elbow with them. And you see that their doctrine and their ways are being corrupted as they do it more. Of course, you know that Esau has infiltrated a lot of these camps, you know, by way of the 501c3 government charter, and also a lot of these various camps, they're really just extortioning the body. You see, but when you look at the men of Great Millstone, which is who I follow, Apostle Tahar, the elder Apostle Tahar, the apostles, the bishops, right? The foundation they set up is just ultimately, it's based upon the ministry, and that's it. And we don't be around all these platforms and all these unbelievers elbow to elbow with these guys, because when you look at it, look at the fruits of that, man. Right? This is Alazar on a podcast with No Jumper. This is Tazariak bumping elbows with all these different guys. Right? Being on podcasts with Sarnetter. Okay, that what's that Saint the Sinner guy? God Logic, right? These are just different pictures of these guys being with all these dudes. They bumping elbows to elbows to these guys, and now you see their doctrine is all corrupted. You see, that's why the scriptures warn not to be in a council of men that don't believe, because you get corrupted. Those demons got upon you. That's upon them, right? Look at them with NOI, is the Nation of Islam, right? And all these guys are, and you see a lot of the camps that's doing that. You see, like for example, Tazariak, they're starting to kind of look more like a black, you know, it's like a black pro-black type of thing versus actually being about, you know, the ministry. It's not even about the ministry anymore. It's more like it's be some pro-black guys. You know, even at IUIC is at that time. Like, we're going to build schools for the community. We're going to do this and this and that. That's not what the Lord told us to do. He told us to go and preach the doctrine, the gospel. You see, and wake up His elect, the elect of the Israelites, which the Israelites aren't just only people that are so-called Southern Kingdom. There's no such thing as black. Southern Kingdom are Judeans, or the Negro, the so-called Negro, the so-called Jamaican, the so-called Haitian, right? And then you have the other Northern Kingdom, which is the Latin tribes, Native American Indian tribes, right? Gad and Reuben are Native American Indian tribes, and then you have Seminole Indian tribe. Then you have all the tribes that came through the South, like parts of South America, Central America. You see, that's who the Israelites are, right? So it's not just a black thing. It's really not even a white. There's no such thing as white either, because guess what? Somebody could have pale skin and be an Israelite because we've been scattered amongst the various nations. But back to the point of the video, right? I'm gonna get some precepts to back that up, man. We're not supposed to be bumping elbow to elbow with all these various platforms, because it'll lead to you being corrupted. This is first one I'm gonna start. This is 2 Corinthians 6:14. It says, "Be not." I'm gonna get it in NLT. "Don't team up with those who are unbelievers. How can righteousness partner with wickedness? How can light live with darkness?" Right? And that's what they're doing, bumping elbow to elbow, going on podcasts with Saint the Sinner. These guys are in the world. They furthering Esau's kingdom. So he's getting on there and then he's putting all these ideas, and then, you know, it's ultimately corrupted his mind. Because they're going to speak from a world point of view, and they're going to, then once the thing ends and they're hanging out, now he's putting all that ways of the world, that's gonna be in your spirit, versus you being in the spirit of actually furthering the ministry, what the Lord wants you to do, right? Verse 15 says, "What harmony can there be between Yahushua Mashiach and the devil? How can a believer partner with the unbeliever?" Right? The devil is the deceiver, right? And that's Satan that has the mind and the heart of the majority of people that's outside of the truth. You see, really all of them that's outside of the truth. But you have elect, you know, they may believe, you know, they may see some of the works and see the elect being delivered, and some of them may come in the last hour, right? But besides that, these people that's in the world right now, they're Satan has control over them, right? So you should have no agreement with them. And you see them being corrupted. We see the examples. All those people, they're changing the doctrine. They're getting more like in a worldly. They're starting to like their whole doctrine, their whole ministry is based on a worldly viewpoint. And let's build schools and do all these other shit versus what the Lord said. You see, this is verse 16. It says, "In what union can there be between the Lord's temple and idols?" With NLT, by the way, it says, "For we are tempted of the living power, as the Heavenly Father said, I will live in them and walk in them, and I will be their power, and they will be my people." Right? So you're not supposed to be all elbow to elbow with unbelievers. You'll be corrupted by it. Right? Let's get some more. This is another example. Like how I said, he had a parable that he was speaking about, and he basically gave them a little wise saying, right? You know, don't get corrupted by the leaven of the Pharisees. Their doctrine was based upon, you know, righteousness from the works of the law and basically their own self-righteousness. Because the Heavenly Father said, "You're going to be deemed as righteous through belief on my Son," worshiping Yahweh. While they were trying to get it in a matter of like their works of the law that everybody can see. They wanted to be viewed like they were on a level and continue to have their spot in the Roman society, right? To keep what they've built up, keep that up. So they wanted to change stuff up so the Romans wouldn't get mad at them, you see, and take away everything that they had got, right? But it ended up happening anyway, 70 AD, right? So it shows you can't go against the Lord's will. But the point right here is this is Mark 8:15. It says, "He charged them, saying, Take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the leaven of Herod." Right? Because their wicked doctrines is like it's a leaven, man. And it spreads. The next one, it says, it's simple. 1 Thessalonians 5:22, it says, "Abstain for all appearances of evil," right? Bad. And that's what all these guys are. They're not for the Lord's kingdom. They want this kingdom to go on forever. So you're trying to be elbow to elbow with these different platforms and these guys, you're going to start getting that type of viewpoint, that type of mindset. That's why a lot of these camps don't speak about Jacob's trouble no more. They're not speaking about the MOTB. They're speaking about, you know, ultimately it's furthering themselves in this world. Because look who they're elbow to elbow with. Right? That's why our apostles, they teach us not to be on these platforms, do all that stuff. Because guess what? You'll get corrupted. They teach us not to be around unbelievers as well. You see? And that's who you see a lot of these camps being around. And that's why they're so corrupted. And they're getting worse. Those demons that's on them unbelievers are starting to hop on them. Right? This is Psalms. We get Psalms 1:1. It says, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly." Right? That's the counsel of the ungodly. The Saint and the Sinner podcast, Nation of Islam. Right? You elbow to elbow with Sonetta and all that. And now you look at their doctrine, it's all based upon, yeah, we're all for the black people and all this bullshit. You see? It's starting to be more of like some type of fucking Black Panther type of movement or some shit like that. Black excellence. That's their doctrine versus actually preaching the word, man. And, you know, furthering the Yahweh Shah's kingdom. And telling Israel to, you know, preparing Israel for that time that we got to go through before the kingdom gets established. They ain't doing that, they doctrine. They doctrine about black excellence and all that bullshit. You see? It says, "Nor stand it in the way of sinners, nor sit it in the seat of the scornful." Right? And that's what they are, joined with wicked dudes, man. You see? Now let's get the next one. This is a quick lesson, a quick video for you start slaving and shit. Alright, this is Proverbs 13:20. It says, "He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but the companion of fools shall be destroyed." Right? Going on Adam 22 podcast, going all these podcasts, and next thing you know it, his woman done brought out something about him getting poked in the behind, Alazar, because he's all with these wicked ass niggas. The demons hopped on him. Then there was even some stuff which saying that he might be a cuck, want to see his woman get popped by somebody else. That's from hanging around them dudes, man. This is Romans 16:17. It says, "Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them." All them niggas don't believe. So they basically, really this was talking about Israelites that are false prophets. But really all them niggas don't believe. So they even worse than a false prophet. They probably gonna be more corrupted than somebody that proclaims to be a believer. Right? This is the last one I got, bro. This is Sirach, known as Ecclesiastes chapter 13. I'm going to get 16 and 17. It says, "All flesh consorted according to his kind, and a man will cleave to his like. What fellowship hath the wolf with the lamb? So the sinner with the ungodly." Right? It ain't supposed to be no fellowship. It's supposed to be all elbow to elbow ultimately they're ultimately like speaking with them like they on the same type of page, which really they're not. Now it's one thing to have an associate, but when you just always around somebody on their platform, y'all hanging out, y'all probably going to go get food, you having dinner with them, speaking about ideas and stuff, all that type of shit, that's too much. And then you putting it out there. So now that vibration that they putting out there, you see is corrupting them. They starting to be more worldly, right? Last one, this is verse 18. It says, what agreement is there between a hyena and a dog? And what peace between the rich and the poor? Right? So that's the point. It says, what fellowship hath the wolf with the lamb, so the sinner with the ungodly. Sinner with the godly, right? So it's not no fellowship there. Well, you see when guys do that, which really our apostles been speaking against, teaching against, they start getting corrupted. Every single one of these camps. On that picture that I had pulled up, you get the picture back real quick. Look at this picture, right? Every single one of these guys be on these platforms and stuff, and look what happened. Look at how their doctrine is now. Hanging out with these unbelievers, being all buddy-buddy, bumping elbows with these guys. Now look at them. You look at their doctrine straight, just some black excellence and, that type of time. And it ain't even about the Lord's kingdom no more. It ain't about, what the Lord's will. It's about their own will, trying to help further His world. So anyway, that's the point of the lesson, man.